So you're making me think about this. Last week, I spent the week in Washington, D.C. working with a bunch of teacher leaders. Someone was talking, somebody from an organization that we were working with was doing kind of a small group discussion. And she was talking about students, and she said, you can't be what you can't see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just thought it was so powerful. And I was also thinking about some of the work that you have been doing. You know, the work with the pipeline, with getting more teachers, into this profession. And that idea of you can't be what you can't see kind of connected for me and struck me. I was wondering if you could just take a couple of minutes and kind of share some of the ways that you're living that, because you really are living that.
Yeah. No. Thank you for bringing that up. This idea. So we started the Fellowship Black Male Educators for Social Justice initially, just as an informal support group.
Yeah.
This was during the time when I was at the U.S. Department of Ed as a principal ambassador fellow, and what I was seeing around the country was very similar to what I was seeing in Philadelphia. Was that there were very few teachers of color, and that most of the students were students of color. And there was a disconnect in the pipeline, and we talked to students who were saying, like, why do I want to become a teacher? No one, I've never seen a black man be a teacher. I've never had one. And so we started asking teachers, like colleagues, like, how many of you actually had like black male educators, for example? Very few had them. The few that had them, if we took away physical education and music classes, the numbers decreased even more. And then there were some that said, I went all the way through my K to 16 experience. I graduated college and had one. And so we really started talking about like this idea of windows and mirrors theory. Like, how do I make sure that all my students have windows and mirrors, that I'm seeing the world, but I'm also seeing reflections of myself, not only who's leading the classroom, but the material that's in front of me, that I'm putting in front of students, what's on my walls, like all of those things, the stories that I'm sharing, the anecdotes, the articles. And so we really, but what caused me to start having these conversations locally in Philadelphia was that young black male teachers were reaching out and saying, hey, I'm thinking about quitting. I'm thinking about leaving the profession. I'm thinking about leaving the city and just finding something else to do because I feel isolated. I feel frustrated. I don't feel heard. There's no opportunity to influence the model or the policies in my school. Mm-hmm. And I just, I'm all around. I'm like, oh no, you can't, because I knew that only 2% of the classroom teachers were black men. So I knew that through working at the Department of Ed. And then I'm like, oh no, what can I do? I'm not in your school, but let's sit down. I will do everything I can do to help and try to point you in the right direction. The same way that Kathy Lee did me, although I wasn't thinking about quitting, but I would have if I, got to that point of frustration. And so what happened was we started meeting together for a year. And these young men would come and they would share. All I asked them to do was share a win, share something that you're doing well that we can all benefit from. Even if it's the smallest thing, a relationship that you built that wasn't, where you wanted to be initially, or aha moments that students had, or, a game that you went to with the kids, whatever it was. And then also share a challenge that we can collectively talk about and try to help you solve it. Through that, a year later, based off a lot of feedback, including from our superintendent, Dr. Height, we formalized our organization, the Fellowship Black Male Educators for Social Justice. And the idea is to support current and aspiring black male educators, and really we have three kind of, pillars.
Right.
One are these convenings where we provide professional development, and it's open to everybody. The second is really try to influence policy. And the third is to influence the pathway to teaching, starting with having our initial commitment was to go back to our schools and have conversations with students about the joys of being teachers. Because we knew that sometimes all people hear on the news and things like that are the negative aspects of it. And I was like, who's championing, elevating the profession by sharing the impact, the joys, the successes, and just the amazing opportunity to lead and serve in community.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up this teacher appreciation episode than with this. Really, it's a beautiful challenge, right? It's a beautiful challenge. Go tell your students tomorrow what you love about teaching.
Oh, yeah.
You know, go tell your students tomorrow what about teaching brings you joy. Mm-hmm. And I think if we do that, we start, right, to perpetuate this culture of appreciation, because my good friend Josh Parker and I have talked about this before, that sometimes you have to give to others what you need yourself. So if you're not feeling appreciated, go talk about, go find that story about what brings you joy and share that. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it resonates with students, and even the ones who we've talked to students who say, I don't want to become a teacher because I had a miserable experience in school. Mm-hmm. And when we tell them, become the teacher you wish you had, we start getting head nods from high school students and say, so even them, even if they struggled in school, they can think about this is what I think I need. Yeah. And I want to be there for kids who needed that same thing. And we all had different needs in our school and as youth. And if we recall that and share that, and I would say, in addition to what you said about what do I love about school and teaching, also share what have you learned as a teacher? Right. The amount of things I've learned in my 25-year career is just I could write a book. There's so many.
You should write a book. You should write a book. That's the next thing. You're going to write a book.
What I've learned over the past 25 years, right? But sometimes students, it can help them connect the dots that we are lifelong learners. Yeah. And by teaching them, we're learning so many different things about them, Absolutely. But most importantly about ourselves and how we can be better. I think that just resonates, and that can help elevate our profession with our students.
This has been the most fantastic conversation. I could keep going for a long time because I have so many questions. There's just wisdom just ekes out of you. And so, but a couple of things just for the folks who are listening, that the piece about joy, I think the piece about listening is so powerful. Go listen to somebody. If you want to show somebody appreciation tomorrow, go listen to them, whether it is a student, a parent, a colleague, the school nurse, your principal, because I'm sure, as you know, principals don't that's not their reality, right? Yeah, people don't always come to them and say, how can I listen for you today, right? Yeah. So thank you so much for being with us. Thank you, all of you out there in the teacher to teacher community, for tuning in and for supporting this work. You'll be able to catch transcripts of portions of the show and the video on my blog this Sunday, which you can find at sarahbrownwesling.com. Also, I'm going to kind of compile some show notes, which means that we'll pull together some resources for you. If this is a topic you're interested in, you'll be able to go to the blog and click on those links and get some of those resources. I know I say this every time, but it is worth repeating. I think questions, not answers, really do create the best space for learning. So keep those questions coming. You can submit them to us via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or on the Ask Sarah tab of my webpage, which you can find at sarahbrownwesling.com. Sharif El-Mikki, thank you so much for being here.
I enjoyed it. Time flew by, and thank you so much. Great, worthy topic. And our audience, let's continue these conversations in our schools and in communities.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week, everybody. Yes. Take care. Good night.
Bye-bye.